I'm Mephiles. Mephiles the Dark. What? Did you forget me?
Mephiles the Dark is an interesting character for me. For the longest time, his one and only appearance was Sonic 06, one of the worst Sonic games of all time. And yet, despite that, there was always something that made him an interesting character to discuss amongst the Sonic community. Despite the messy story that was 06, Mephiles was mostly able to maintain a menacing presence throughout the game. It's the way he moves, the way he talks, the way he interacts with the characters, his evil laugh. The fact that he actually killed Sonic. For almost 20 years, this was the only game he was in, and of all games it was 06. There's so much going against this character for being memorable, and yet he succeeded in that. Mephiles left a mark on the Sonic franchise. All these years later, when Shadow Generations was announced, one of the first things people said was, so where's Mephiles? Hell, I'll be honest guys, I was expecting Mephiles to be the main villain for Shadow Generations. Black Doom would then be established to make a return and be the main villain for the game. So where does that leave Mephiles? Oh, don't worry, he's still in the game too. And he remembers Shadow? Indeed, Mephiles still remembers Shadow in Shadow Generations during his boss fight. We as an audience are told that Mephiles is aware that he's not part of the timeline anymore. Not only does he remember Shadow, he knows that he's an anomaly. He knows that he's been erased from the timeline thanks to the end of 06. And this isn't just about him fighting Shadow again, this is him trying to restore himself to the timeline. It's definitely a fun theory, especially when Shadow Gens first came out. Compared to the other boss gates, Mephiles needs 4 keys to be unlocked, where the other boss fights only needed 3. The boss gate itself is buried, hidden away, as if someone was aware of what Mephiles was or potentially could be, and they didn't want to even toy with the idea of him getting out. Whether that be the Time Eater itself, whether that be Dr. Eggman or Black Doom, someone knew what Mephiles was, at least to some extent, so extra measures was taken to try and seal him away. We don't want Mephiles back. He needs to stay buried. He needs to be gone. The fact that he's even here as a boss gate is dangerous enough. And again, during the boss fight itself, Mephiles is desperate. To quote my friend David, he's like a wild animal. He knows he's not part of the timeline, and he knows that if he loses this fight, he's going to get sealed away again and erased from the timeline. He needs to win this. It's not just a matter of defeating Shadow, it's a matter of existing. A game like Sonic X Shadow Generations was probably the only chance Mephiles had on returning in the games. So yeah, this is different from my previous Sonic related videos on this channel. I don't really think it's necessary to go over the return of Mephiles in the Sonic games. But what about the movies? What about the films, the live action stuff? What about a future Sonic show, whether it's connected to the live action films or not? This is where it gets interesting, because I think Mephiles completely works as an overarching villain that could appear in multiple films or shows as this, well, villain, this threat. So let's talk about it. Mephiles the Dark, appearing in a live action film, appearing in a new show, appearing in some other media that isn't the Sonic games. Can it work? How would I do it? What options do we have with a character like Mephiles? So I guess the first thing we should get out of the way is the fact that technically, sort of, I'm not going to pretend I fully understand myself, the Flames of Disaster and Iblis exist in the Sonic live action series already, thanks to the Knuckles show. If you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I didn't watch Knuckles, so I'm not going to pretend I have a complete understanding on how it works. Based on what I do know and the research I've done, the Flames of Disaster is basically just a power-up that Knuckles has at the end of the Knuckles show, and Iblis is some kind of creature that exists, but not really. Again, I'm not going to pretend I fully understand. But here's the thing, I'm not even really going to focus much on that, because I don't think Mephiles would need to be connected to the Flames of Disaster or Iblis this time around. You know, this is a different continuity from the game, so why not? Let's change the backstory for Mephiles a little bit. He doesn't have to be tied to Iblis or the Flames of Disaster. Let's just have Mephiles be Mephiles, this evil, manipulative, dark, chaotic villain. So what could his origin story be? One idea I suggested in my Blaze the Cat video for her appearing in the Sonic films would be that we would have a story where she would come from the Soul Dimension, obviously, as well as a villain, potentially Captain Whisker or some other villain that is just a one and done thing. They only exist in that one film, and at the end of the film they are defeated. It ends on a happy note where Sonic and Blaze are on good terms with each other, but we also end it on a question, especially if it's Captain Whisker or some other mechanical robotic enemy. Who built it? Where did it come from? And I suggested then that we would have a scene, possibly a post-credit scene or just another scene at the end of the movie, where we see a mysterious figure also appear in Sonic's dimension. And I use a scene of Mephiles for reference. Now at the time, that's all it was. It wasn't meant to suggest that I'm thinking Mephiles should be the character in that scenario. I just thought it would make for an accurate scene to help suggest what I'm talking about here. But the more I think about it, the more I kind of like it as a potential introduction for the character. Whether it be from the Soul Dimension or from another dimension, imagine if this was the case for introducing Mephiles. I don't think he would be a one and done villain. If he appeared in the films, I feel like he could potentially appear in multiple movies as an overarching villain. Mephiles makes his presence known, but he's staying hidden in the background, he's hiding in the shadows, and he doesn't become a major character / threat until later on in the story. After being teased at the end of a Sonic film, maybe his next main appearance is in the Shadow film or whatever the Shadow project is that they're working on for the live action film series. Either way, I kind of like this idea of him being introduced this way. Let's say Mephiles is going to appear in 3 movies. The first movie would be him just being teased at the end of the film. That would be the one that would focus on Sonic with Tails, Knuckles, probably Amy at this point, dealing with another villain. Maybe this is where we get introduced to Blaze. Then the second movie in this hypothetical trilogy is when he properly gets introduced as the main villain, and he focuses on mainly being an enemy to Shadow, potentially with at this point Team Dark being established as well. Shadow has Rouge and Omega by his side, maybe even Agent Stone, who knows. And Mephiles is in this movie mainly being an enemy to Shadow. At the end of the second film, while he's not been destroyed, Mephiles does suffer a loss. He gets defeated by Team Dark, Shadow kicks his ass, maybe Sonic helps out. Either way, the point is the second movie would end with Mephiles being defeated, down but not out. He retreats. Where does he retreat to? He travels either to the far future or to an alternate dimension, where he meets a certain third hedgehog. Finally, we have the third film. Silver and Mephiles talk to each other. Mephiles convinces Silver that either just Sonic or possibly Sonic and Shadow are responsible for his world being the state that it's currently in, regardless if it's the far future or an alternate dimension. And he convinces Silver to travel with Mephiles to take down Sonic and Shadow. I think you can see what I've been doing with this hypothetical trilogy. The first film in this trilogy would essentially focus on Sonic, the second film in this trilogy would focus on Shadow, the third film of this trilogy would focus on Silver, with the end of the third film being the 3 hedgehogs coming together to finally defeat Mephiles the Dark. Regardless if it's a film, multiple films, or a show, I would honestly be very excited to see Mephiles the Dark make an appearance in this alternate continuity where it's a fresh start for his character, and we don't have to worry about the total baggage that is his messy backstory from 06. Start fresh, establish him as a character from the future still if you want, from an alternate dimension, maybe the Soul Dimension. Mephiles has been sealed away for who knows how long, and now that he's finally free, he's here to just cause chaos. And I think that is one of the things that makes Mephiles interesting, because, at least in my opinion, Mephiles is the kind of character that doesn't want to reach his end goal as soon as possible. He could easily destroy the world within days, but to him, that's the easy / boring way of doing it. He wants to do it slow, he wants to take his time, he wants to scheme, he wants to manipulate and mess with other characters. I view Mephiles as the type of character that wants to see other characters turn on each other for his entertainment. A scene I would love to see, and of course there would have to be a lot of build up for this scene to work. A story where Mephiles manipulated characters throughout the whole story. Maybe he takes on a completely new form and a new persona. He seemingly is a friend / ally to the group. Much later in the story, we get the reveal that Mephiles is the reason why any of this shit happened in the first place. He's responsible for the heroes having to fight the battles that they fought. He's the reason why the villains are attacking in the first place. Everyone's a pawn to him. This is all just a big chess game to him. He did this just because he could. And I think it would make for a great scene that would show the audience just how messed up in the head Mephiles is. Because I'm imagining a scene where Mephiles reveals everything to the heroes. They finally realize the truth. They finally learn the truth that Mephiles has been tricking them, manipulating them, making sure things play out a certain way since the beginning. And then when one of the characters asks the simple question, why did you do this? Mephiles just gives the cold response.
You're asking me why? I did it because I was bored.
I would love to see a scene like that play out in either a Sonic film or a Sonic show, especially if they were able to keep Mephiles a secret. For example, we know that Shadow's going to come back, right? He's going to have potentially his own movie in this franchise, yeah? And realistically, Shadow will probably appear again in a future Sonic film. I don't know for certain if he will appear in Sonic Movie 4, but I think it's a safe assumption that Shadow will appear in a future Sonic movie. If we went down this path where Shadow does seemingly return in a future Sonic film, imagine we go for, say, 1/3 of the movie where Shadow has seemingly returned, has fought alongside Sonic against some weird creatures, these weird purple looking monsters that have appeared out of nowhere, and then maybe suddenly another Shadow comes in, attacking the Shadow that we've been watching with Sonic since the beginning of the film, similar to that scene from Sonic Forces, and that is where we get the reveal that the Shadow that we've seen since the beginning of the movie was Mephiles the Dark in disguise. And a scene like this will once again establish what type of character Mephiles the Dark is, because either in that scene or in a later scene, maybe he himself admits that there was no real benefit to him disguising himself as Shadow. He had no reason to do it. He could have easily have just shown up as Mephiles attacking Sonic and the rest of his friends, but he just thought it would be more fun to disguise himself as Shadow and mess with the team for a little bit before actually attacking them. This is how I view Mephiles. This is how I think Mephiles could be written into the films. He's doing it just for fun. He just sees it as a game. He could easily be just a generic monster of the week type villain. He doesn't really have a major goal. He just wants to destroy. He wants to see the world burn. How he does it is what's important to him. It's not just seeing the world burn. He wants to be able to say that he did this in the most ridiculous, out of nowhere way possible, just because he can. That's how I view this character. That's how I think he should be written into a story if he ever makes an appearance again, even despite what I said at the start of the video, if it was in another Sonic game. This idea would probably piss people off, but imagine we finally get a game that seemingly focuses on Silver the Hedgehog being a major player again, just to later reveal that it was Mephiles the Dark in disguise this whole time. And then to just throw that extra messed up sadistic punch to the heroes, he then reveals that he literally could have easily have just shown up as Mephiles, being the regular villain. He just thought it would be more fun to disguise himself and trick the other heroes into fighting each other, or trick other villains into fighting each other, or going on these weird adventures or quests to find certain plot MacGuffins, or the Chaos Emeralds, the Master Emerald, Soul Emeralds, what have you. So yeah, I think that's enough rambling for me. With all that said, that's Mephiles the Dark. I think he would have potential if he were to make an appearance in one of the films or in a future Sonic show. It would obviously depend on how it's executed. You have a clear idea on how not to do it, Sonic 06. But with that said, there are some ideas from 06 you could definitely take inspiration from when remastering and recreating this character and his backstory. Like I said before in the video, this villain who went nearly 20 years with only one main game appearance is probably one of the most memorable Sonic villains in the franchise. He's remembered and talked about to this day, and especially thanks to Shadow Generations, I would say that there is now a new level of intrigue and interest in this character and how he could work in another game or film or show. So with all that rambling done for me, now it's your turn. How would you do it? How would Mephiles be implemented into a future story? I'd rather refocus on the films for this one, but if you have an idea for a show or even a games, have at it, go for it. So far, one of the best things to come out of these Sonic videos I've been making is the comments that you guys have been leaving on the videos, suggesting your ideas and how you would go about Eggman Nega coming back, Dark Sonic being re-implemented into a story, Blaze the Cat finally having a grand return to the spotlight, and now here we are again. Hopefully I'll be able to look at the comments at this video and see a bunch of responses suggesting fun, unique ideas on how Mephiles could work. Should he be in the films? Should he be in the show? Chances are he won't be, but it's a fun thing to talk about. See you next time, guys.